Hi guys, welcome back. We are going to be talking today about lesson 42, symbols of inclusion and division in our order of operations. Guys who are in my class, you had best be opening your book to your notes section and taking notes in these as we go along. Okay, so example number 1. If I write it down, you best be writing it down too. I'm going to try and turn this so that way. Okay, so example number 1. 4 plus 3 times 5 times 2 plus 2, 15 minus 3. Now, friendly reminder, we always do our parentheses first. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, right? Now remember, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally is sort of a guideline, not always set in stone. And I'll kind of go over what that means for some of these other ones. Let me see, I was going to write this back here. So please, I'll write it right here. You guys need to write this down off to the notes section. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. This is your parentheses. These are your exponents. Multiplication and division is done, they're equal. They exist together, right? And you do them from left to right. So you don't do division before multiplication or multiplication before division. It's just in the order that they come in. Same with addition and subtraction. You always do it in the order. Now, parentheses I often call the grouping because sometimes there's some implied grouping there. So I'll kind of walk you through when you can expect those. All right, so in this case though, we're given some pretty explicit grouping here, right? We've got this guy here in parentheses and this one here. What you're gonna do is rewrite everything except bring down what you're doing. And once you're done inside parentheses, you can take it out of the parentheses. 3 times 5 is 15. The operation going on between this garbage that's in here and this 2 is multiplication. If there's no operation shown, it's probably multiplication. I can't think of when it wouldn't be honest with you. 2 plus 2, I'm just bringing things down around what I'm doing, times, and I'm taking this garbage out of the parentheses because there's no need to keep it in there because 15 minus 3 is 12. All right, looking at this one right here, we've got some multiplication we can do. So we have this multiplication here and this multiplication here. Let's bring down everything else around it. 4 plus 15 times 2, that's 30. Plus 2 times 12 is going to give me 24. Perfect. So now we're allowed to add in any order. So however that works for you. 30 plus 24 is going to give me 54. Plus 4 more is going to give me 58. 58. Excellent. Let's look at our next example. Example 2, we have 8, 20 minus 3 minus 17 minus 11. Whoop, got a little excited to close my parentheses there. Plus 3 times 2 plus 5. All right, again, we're going to do all those parentheses first, right? So we're going to, until I look at my things and when you look at yourself and you're like, whoa, hey, what happened there? Parentheses first, this guy, right? So if it helps, what I can do is 20 minus 3 we know is going to be 17. So I'm just going to write that up there just to give me a little reminder. 17 minus 11 is going to give me 6, plus 3 is going to give me 9, okay? So 17 minus 11 gives me 6, plus 3 more gives me 9. So what I have now is 8, and again, if the operation is not shown, it's going to be multiplication, so times. I've done everything in those parentheses right now, so I'm just going to take it straight out of the parentheses and do 17. Minus all this garbage equals 9. There's no operation shown, so it's multiplication times 2 plus 5. Okay, so now what we want to do is multiplication first. Here's a multiplication problem, there's a multiplication problem. So 8 times 17, just so that I don't make a mistake, 8 times 17 gives me 136 minus 9 times 2, which gives me 18 plus 5. Now, personally, I think it's easier to add the opposite when we have a subtraction problem. So after you've done your, so when we're talking PEMDAS here, PEMDAS, and again, multiplication and division, they're equal. That's why I put them on the same line. After this, I put ATO, add the opposite. Before you do your addition subtraction, I think it's a lot easier because a common mistake that I see is this. Somebody looks at this problem and they see 18 plus 5 and they're like, oh, okay, so that's 136 minus 23, right? Wrong. You have to remember that that negative 18 is in there. So this is not how we do that, okay? But that is a common mistake I see. If you add the opposite, I see that that mistake doesn't happen as much. So add the opposite there. Now what I like to do is gather up all my positives and all my negatives together. I got a positive here, and then I got a negative there. So 136 plus 5 is going to give me 141 plus negative 18. Which team is larger? Our positive team, and by how many? Let's use our calculator just so I don't make a mistake. 123. 123. Okay, so the next one that we're going to do has a new, so these are all symbols of inclusion, right? Parentheses. The next one has more symbols of inclusion. These are called brackets. Now, sometimes you'll see double parentheses in some books. This book uses brackets and braces. Brackets being this thing, braces being that thing, instead of double parentheses. I like that. I like the brackets and braces. It helps keep it nice and simple, like, or I guess not simple so much as defined. So looking at example 3, you guys better be writing these down. Minus 2, 14 minus 12 plus 3. All right, guys, so what we're gonna do is we still wanna follow all our rules, but we're gonna do our parentheses inside the parentheses first. So this guy and this guy. Well, we know 5 minus 2 is 3, so I'm gonna write a little 3 up there just to remind me. 14 minus 12 is 2. All right, so now what we're gonna do is 24 minus 2 brackets, and see, this is the use of the brackets because we've already used the parentheses, okay? You can see it like that. Sometimes, like I said, some books use double parentheses, so it would look like this. That can get kind of confusing, I think, so I prefer the brackets. Now, if you can keep track, when you're done with your parentheses, you can revert this into a parentheses, and I'll show you what I mean by that at the end. So what I know this is 3, right? And the operation going on between these two things, multiplication times 2 plus 3. Now, I chose to keep these as brackets just because that's what they are here. But if you wanted to switch these back to parentheses at this point, that's fine too. Like this, that would be fine too, either way. Whatever it is though, we still have to keep doing all the garbage that's in there. Again, we want to go in order of our order of operations. Multiply, we're going to do that first. 3 times 2 is 6. I'm just going to write that down there. 6 plus 3, right? That's going to give us 9. So we have 24 minus 2. The operation going on between 2 and this either parenthesis or bracket is multiplication times 6 plus 3, which is 9. This is you showing all your work, by the way. Again, we're going to do our multiplication first. We've got 24 minus 18. All right, when we do that, we get 6, right? Excellent. Let's take a peek. Let's do another one. Okay, so there's another example if you need to do it, but what we're going to do is I'm going to move on to division in our order of operations first. Okay, so this is going to be example number 5, even though I'm skipping 4. Example 5. All right, for this guy, we're going to do 5 plus 12 divided by 2 plus 3 times 4 minus 2, 5, quantity means parentheses if I ever say that. 5 minus 2, bam, we are good to go. Look at that guy. I'm gonna just try and adjust my light here so that you can see without the shadow there. Okay, so that didn't really do much, but whatever. Okay, so what we want to do first are parentheses, right? So we know 5 minus 2, that's going to give us 3. So I'm just going to write a little 3 up there so I have it. Then after we do our parentheses, we do any exponents, we don't have any. We're going to do multiplication and division. So we can do a couple steps, as we go along. Even though I've done the 3 over here, let's just do this guy right here, okay? Here's another multiplication in there. So notice how I'm underlining what I'm doing. This is really important as your teacher. I want to be able to see what you're doing. So what we're going to do is 5 plus 12 divided by 2 is 6 plus 3 times 4, which is 12, minus 2, and then everything in there is 3. So I'm done within those parentheses. I'm going to take them out, but the operation going on there is 3. All right, taking a look at this, we can see we still have some multiplication to do. This guy right here. So let's bring everything else down. 5 plus 6 plus 12 minus 6. At this point, we've done all our multiplication division. Add the opposite, my friend. Add the opposite. The other reason is to do this is now we see we have a -6 and a +6. Remember, those cancel each other out. So bam, bam, get rid of those. 5 and 12, we have 5, 6, 7. So we have 17 here for our answer. 17 for our answer. All right, guys, the practice problems are on page 140. Let's see. Practice problems are on page 140 down at the bottom. Let's see if I can get this. Bam. So if you need to pause it, you can. All right, so those are your practice problems. Pause the video, do those, and then come on back. All right, guys. So all right, let me get my act together. Okay, so the practice problems are, let's start with problem A. We have 4 plus 10 divided by 2 minus 3, 6 minus 4, blah, all that good stuff in there. All right, first things first, we're gonna do our parentheses first. We know 6 minus 4, let me make sure that's focused. There we go, 6 minus 4 we know is 2, so we're gonna throw a 2 in there. 10 divided by 2 we know is gonna be 5. So we have 4 plus 5. I went ahead and just did that at the same time, even though there's going to be other multiplication, but it was off to the side, so we were able to. Times 2, right there. Because again, the operation going on between there is multiplication. Now we've got this multiplication problem, so we have 4 plus 5 minus 6. We have done all our multiplication division, add the opposite. Gather up our positives, gather up our negatives. We end up with 9 plus -6, which gives me 3. Excellent, that was A. All right, for B, we have 5 plus 10 times 6 minus 2, 3 times 2 minus 2. All right, again, we're gonna do our parentheses first. That's this guy. 3 times 2 is 6. I see some other multiplication we can do right here, right? So what we're gonna have is 5 plus 60 minus 2, and I've done everything in the parentheses, so I'm gonna take them out, times 6, that's 6 up there, minus 2. All right, I see we have a multiplication problem we gotta do, this guy right here, so let's bring everything else down around it. 5 plus 60 minus 12 minus 2. We have done all our multiplication division, now it's time to add the opposite. Add the opposite, add the opposite. So we end up with this and this, this. I gather up all my positives, I get 65 of those. Gather up all my negatives, I get 14. All right, which team is larger? You guys, it's costing me a fortune in candy, so I'm like double checking my work every time. So 51, right? Because our positive team is larger by 51 players. All right, so then let's talk about C. For C, we have 55 minus 3, brackets, parentheses, 4 minus 1, quantity, 10 minus 6, divided by, oh wait, no, that's plus. Gotta be wearing my glasses. Old lady here. All right, guys. So again, we're gonna wanna do everything that's, oh, I don't know if you can see it. We're gonna wanna do everything that's in those parentheses first. 4 minus 1 we know is gonna be 3, so I'm just gonna write that up there so I have it. 10 minus 6 is gonna be 4. So let's bring everything else down. 55 minus 3, and since I'm done with everything in my parentheses, I'm just gonna use parentheses instead of brackets. 3 times 4 plus 2 here. Again, I'm not done with these parentheses though, so I want to go ahead and do this guy. So 55 minus 3, 12 plus 2. 12 plus 2 we know is 14, so we're gonna do 55 minus 3 times 14. All right, we gotta do some multiplication. 3 times 14 is 42. So 55 minus 42 equals 8. 13, right? 13. Okay, so if you have any questions on that one, let me know. Otherwise, we got one more. So stick with me here. So for D, we have 2 brackets 3, 6 minus 3, 4 minus 2, plus 2, minus 2. All right, so first things first, let's do those these guys right in here and write that 6 minus 3 is 3, right? So I'm gonna write that right above there. 4 minus 2 is 2. Okay, let's bring everything else down. 2, this time I'm gonna use the brackets. It doesn't matter. 3, and again, the operation here is times. So times 3 times 2 plus 2, close my brackets out, minus 2. All right, so I got some stuff I gotta do in here. All that multiplication we can do in order, or we can mix them around, because remember, we're allowed to add in order, any order or multiply in any order. 3 times 3 is 9, times 2 is gonna be 18. So we have, so I'm gonna write just like 18 right there. So I have it. So 2 brackets, 18, and actually the reason why I did that was because now I have 18 here, plus 2 more is 20. Now I've done everything within here. So I have 2 times 20 minus 2. So guys, I'm not showing every single step. I'm doing some in my head and just letting you in on it by saying, hey, this is like writing it right here or here, right? With that said, you need to show at least what I am showing. If you don't show any of your work, I know you can do a lot of these in your head. I really don't care about the answer. I want to see your work. That is far more important. All right, so with that said, 40 minus 2, that's going to give me 38. 38 on that guy. All right, guys, if you have any questions, let me know. But otherwise, you must show your work the way I have been showing it on these thus far. And I look forward to seeing you in class. Thanks, guys.